dance and sing.
Yes. 30 years ago, I walked into Disneyland for the very first time. And I hated it. 3 decades later, I teach a college course. I dress up like this all over Southern California. I write books on my favorite place anywhere in the world, Disneyland. What changed? Not the park. What I hated about Disneyland in August of 1988 is that it was too hot, too crowded. We waited 3.5 hours for our first Disneyland ride. In 2017, if you go to the park in August, it will still be too hot, too crowded, and yes, we still wait 3.5 hours for our favorite Disneyland attractions. No, it's not the park that changed. When I first walked into Disneyland, I knew nothing about Walt Disney and nearly nothing about Disneyland. This morning, we're going to walk a little bit in Walt Disney's footsteps. I'm going to share with you some of his stories. Stories that hopefully will educate, stories that will hopefully entertain, but most importantly and most significantly, stories that will motivate you and inspire you to take your life to the next level so that you can live as great a story as the story of Disneyland. We're going to get started this morning in 1923. Walt's first studio was Laugh-O-Gram Studio in Kansas City, Missouri. There he worked with a local dentist creating animation advertisements teaching children how to brush their teeth. But after only 18 months, Laugh-O-Gram Studio and Walt Disney are bankrupt. His older brother Roy is here in Los Angeles, and for months he had been telling his little brother, Walt, you're never going to make it. Walt, you're crazy trying to do animation in Kansas City. Walt, if you want to get into the movie business, the only place to be is here in California. But Walt hung in there. Walt fought. Walt wanted to make it where he already was. And once Laugh-O-Gram went bankrupt, he had to make the most difficult decision of his life. Leave everything and everyone that he knew in Kansas City, where he had already spent half of his life, or come to California. He made this decision. Boarded a train, $40. That's all the money to his name. A single suitcase of clothing, and a one-way ticket. Came to California, and with his older brother Roy, together founded the Disney Brothers Studio that today is the largest entertainment company anywhere in the world. What if Laugh-O-Gram Studio is a success? What if Walt Disney never goes bankrupt? Well, maybe he spends the rest of his life in Kansas City and the rest of his career only ever working with a local dentist. Think about where your life is this morning, where you are versus where you want to be. Your business, your company, your family, your relationships, your spouse, your children. Where are you? Where do you want to be? What train do you need to get on this morning to get where you know you want and need to go? And are you willing to make the sacrifices necessary to change your world? A single suitcase, $40, and a one-way ticket. Walt made the decision. And in making that decision, he not only changed his world, but the world of millions and billions of others. Well, once Walt and Roy had founded the Disney Brothers Studio, they would go on to create their first successful character. And today, you know him by the name of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And by 1928, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is so successful that Walt is going to board another train. Now with his wife Lily, they're headed east. They want to sit down with their distributor Universal in New York. They're looking for a bigger and better contract. But in that meeting, Walt learned that when they signed the distribution deal with Universal, well, they had signed away the rights to the character as well. And in that meeting, they also learned that while they were busy in New York, Universal was busy here in Southern California, hiring away the very animators who had helped make Oswald so successful. Walt didn't walk out of that meeting with a bigger and better contract. No, he walked out with nothing. He boarded the train west. He is staring bankruptcy in the face all over again. But on that train ride home, he remembered a little character who had kept him company during his darkest days in Kansas City. Pulled out a pad of paper, sketched out the first story, showed it to his wife Lily, and said, "Honey, what do you think of this guy?" And she said, "Why, Walt, he's cute. What are you going to name him?" He said, "Well, I'm thinking of naming him Mortimer." And Lily said, "Oh, no, Walt, that name is much too heavy. Why don't we go with Mickey instead?" And it was in that moment that the world's most popular and profitable cartoon character was born. But again, what if? What if Walt never loses Oswald the not-so-lucky rabbit? That he never has a need for Mickey Mouse. Walt once said, "Let us never forget that it all started with a mouse who was born out of desperation, a mouse who was born out of failure." How many of you this morning are facing some sort of difficulty in your life, some sort of challenge? You're staring failure right in the face. And what if? What if you're only a single sketch, a single story, a single scene from your next breakthrough and your greatest success? Walt was successful not because he was born that way. Walt was successful because he never gave up. He always kept moving forward. And you can do the same. Let's fast forward 20 years. Late 1940s, and at this point, Walt is a Hollywood movie mogul. He's made it here in California. He is a household name. Everybody knows who Mickey Mouse is. But I think more importantly, more significantly, he is the father to two young girls, Diane and Sharon. Every Saturday afternoon in the Disney household was Daddy's Day. Walt would take off with Diane and Sharon here in Southern California, and they'd go to the beach, and they'd go to the mountains, and they'd go to the museums, but far and away their favorite place to go was a little merry-go-round in nearby Griffith Park. Moms and dads, grandmas, grandpas, you already know this. When you put a small child on a merry-go-round, do they ever want to ride it just once? No, they want to ride it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And one Saturday afternoon, while Walt Disney is sitting on this bench, as Diane and Sharon are spinning on their merry-go-round, on this bench, he has an idea. He has what many consider to be a crazy thought. Walt Disney began to dream there should be a place where parents and children can have fun together. And so it was in that moment, on that bench, that the dream of Disneyland was born. I want you to imagine for just a moment that you are actually at Disneyland right now. Raise your hand if you have a favorite Disneyland ride. I'm going to go with Andy.
Before my favorite. Oh,
yes.
My favorite was It's a Small World. I know it's a little hokey, but it brings back so many memories.
That's my favorite.
How many of you are It's a Small World fans? You are not alone. Little history behind It's a Small World. Disneyland opened in July of 1955. Banks didn't want to get behind it. Corporations didn't want to get behind it. Network television didn't want to get behind it. Fast forward 9 years later, New York, home to the very corporations, the very banks, the very networks who told Walt no in 1955, New York's getting ready to host the 1964-65 World's Fair, and that fair is in trouble. And they will come to California, get on their knees, and beg Walt, who is just swimming in the success of Disneyland, they will beg him to come east and save their fair. Walt would go on to build 4 attractions for that famed fair, the last of which, with only 9 months to go, was It's a Small World, sponsored by the United Nations and Pepsi-Cola. It came to be known as Walt's Little Boat Ride, and was so successful that it was the #1 attraction at the 64-65 World's Fair. They brought it home to Disneyland in 1966. They used the technology for the boat ride to put into another attraction that would open in 1967, Pirates of the Caribbean, which celebrated its 50th birthday this past Saturday, originally envisioned only as a walk-through wax museum. But the boat ride, It's a Small World, made the boat ride possible in Pirates of the Caribbean. Today, there is not a Disney park anywhere in the world that does not have a version of It's a Small World, and as a result, it is the most played song in musical history. Now, don't worry, I also teach American government and am familiar with the constitutional prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. We're not singing It's a Small World this morning. We all have our favorite Disneyland rides. We all have our favorite Disneyland attractions. When you walk onto Main Street, you can turn right into the Main Street Opera House today and look at the very park bench that Walt Disney was sitting on that Saturday afternoon at Griffith Park as his daughters, Diane and Sharon, spin on their merry-go-round. And for me, that is my favorite Disneyland attraction, because it is a reminder that our ideas matter. It is a reminder that our crazy thoughts count. It is a reminder that we should still dream. Where is your park bench this morning? What idea, what crazy thought, what dream have you been harboring for weeks, months, or maybe even years? In 1955, we needed Walt Disney because we needed Disneyland. And in 2017, I believe that we need you and your ideas and your crazy thoughts. We still need people who dream. Think about it for just a moment. In the 1940s, Walt Disney, Hollywood movie mogul, Mickey Mouse, as successful as you can define success, he didn't need Disneyland. But we did. And thank God he had the courage to get off of that bench, take action, and make that dream possible. Today, when you walk into Disneyland, you have the Main Street Opera House on the right, but you also have the Victorian train station overhead, which is a wonderful reminder that that's where it all started. Walt's first hero in his life was an uncle who worked the Santa Fe Railroad in Marceline, Missouri. And Walt used that as inspiration for getting on that train in 1923, again, with all the $40, one suitcase, and a one-way ticket. And he used that train to come to California, change his world, and in the process, change our world. And from there, he would go on to create a railroad in his own backyard. And when he built Disneyland in 1955, first and foremost, he insisted that the perimeter of the park be surrounded by a railroad. And so the next time you go into Disneyland, ride your favorite attraction. Check your man card at the door, Andy, and get back on It's a Small World. But I also want to challenge you to go into the Main Street Opera House and look at the park bench. And remember, your ideas count. Your crazy thoughts matter. Your dreams can come true. And then go over to the railroad and think about that ominous decision that Walt faced in 1923. Am I in or am I out? Am I going to stay here in Kansas City the rest of my life and the rest of my career? Or am I going to risk it all with $40, a single suitcase, and a one-way ticket? Come to California and see if my dreams can't come true after all. Whatever you face this morning, you can overcome it once you make the decision to go all in. Once you make the decision to go all the way. I'll close with this example. When Nikki and I moved here in 2011, my crazy idea, my crazy dream was to create that college level course on the history of Disneyland. And when I share people the information about what I do, I get one of two reactions. Either, really? Seriously? Like there's a college class? People spend tuition dollars on the history of an amusement park? But then others are like, wow, where was that class when I was in college? Well, after a year or two of thinking and dreaming and waiting and procrastinating, I pitched my Mickey Mouse idea, college course on the history of Disneyland. Finally got approval. Spent an entire year working on the syllabus and the curriculum, the guest lecturers, the field trips, the textbooks. Had it all laid out, had it all lined up. Gave that first lecture, and yes, it was awesome. And then the very next day, faced the most difficult decision of my life. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And the neurosurgeon at Cedars-Sinai said to me, Jeff, it is life-threatening. It's got to come out. Today is Friday. I need you here for surgery on Tuesday. And even if it is not cancerous, fortunately it turned out not to be, but even if it is not cancerous, you will be out of work anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks meant no class. 6 to 8 weeks meant the history of Disneyland is wiped from the schedule, never to be seen or heard from again. 6 to 8 weeks mean my dream dies. And I thought about my life. And I thought about how good I already had it. Beautiful wife, beautiful home, beautiful family. All of the success that I had enjoyed at the ripe old age of 51. And then I thought about my idea and my crazy thought. I thought about my dream and how it could make a difference, not just in my life, but in the life of our students and the life of everyone else who could have the opportunity to be motivated and inspired by Walt's wisdom and his dream of Disneyland. And once I thought about that and remembered Walt's decision to get on the train, I did my version of getting on the train. I looked the neurosurgeon in the eye and I said, sorry, Doc, Tuesday is not going to happen. We delayed the surgery for 2.5 months. Why? Because I see Disneyland not as an escape, but as an example. And I see Disneyland not as the place where dreams come true. I could spend an entire month showing you how Disneyland is showing you how you can make your own dreams come true. Wherever you are this morning, in your life, in your business, in your family, in your relationships, if you want to make it better, Walt Disney, the Wisdom of Walt, and Disneyland can help you get there. And so I end with the question that we started with. Where are you this morning? What train do you need to get on to get where you want to be? Are you all in? $40, single suitcase, one-way ticket. Nikki and I were up at 3 o'clock this morning. We left Riverside at 4:15 so that we could be with you at 7:30 a.m. in Marina Del Ray. Why? Because we're on the train. We're all in, and we want you to be as well. Thank you.
Wow.
I really could spend a month talking about this, but I think we have time for, what do you think, Andy, about 3 questions?
Yeah.
So Walt Disney or Disney World, Maria?
I just want to know, your course, is that some kind of a requirement for people that are going to work at the parks?
It is not. I don't have an official relationship with Disney other than they bring me in from time to time to give motivational and inspirational speeches to cast members. And so the course is available to our students, and it does count as credit toward their general history education requirement.
That's great.
So, yes, someone else? Andy?
So a two-part one, what is your favorite ride? And if you have any other, I'm sure you have a ton of like trivia,
Yes.
fun facts, if you could share a couple more with us.
Sure, so my actual favorite ride, not attraction, but ride, is Space Mountain. And fun fact about Space Mountain, Walt envisioned that attraction in the 1960s. It started showing up on park maps as early as 1968. But the technology didn't exist for putting more than one roller coaster on a track indoors. They would build the first Space Mountain, not here at Disneyland, but at the Magic Kingdom in Orlando in 1974. We wouldn't get our version until 1977. When ours opened, 6 of the 7 original Mercury astronauts were on board to take the very first ride. And then when they reopened it for Disneyland's 50th birthday in 2005, Neil Armstrong was there to take the very first reimagined ride after they relaunched Space Mountain. My favorite fun Disneyland fact. How many of you like Doritos? Raise your hand. Yes. Doritos were born at Disneyland. In 1955, when Walt opened the park, he barely had the money to open Disneyland. Original budget was $3.5 to $4 million. They spent well over $17 million by the time the park opened. And he didn't have money to run restaurants, and he had money to run shops, so everything was leased out. The original restaurant in Frontierland was Casa de Fritos, sponsored by Frito-Lay. And Mexican restaurants were relatively new in the United States at that particular point. And so at the end of the day, they would have a lot of excess tortillas. And an ingenious cast member, again, that idea of sitting on a park bench, what can you do new, what can you do different? An ingenious cast member had this idea of cutting the excess tortillas up, deep frying them, and dumping a bunch of seasoning on them. And by the mid-60s, that was the most popular snack anywhere in the park. And by 1966, Frito-Lay decided to take its Disneyland snack nationwide, becoming America's first national tortilla trip, which we know as Doritos. Go back and look at the original logo on the Doritos bag. It is identical to the original Disneyland sign that used to stand out on Harbor Boulevard. That is not an accident.
Very cool.
One more. Yes, ma'am.
Disneyland, as we know it today, I mean, there's many, they're always changing things,
Yes.
to create something. Like you said, you start out with the original, Frontierland, Adventureland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland. Now they have things shut down and they're opening up a new park over here and a new this and Toontown and whatever. Who's kind of behind the scenes now that's creating this vision as it's changing and evolving?
Sure. First of all, Walt said that as long as there was imagination left in the world, Disneyland will never be finished. Think about that and how it applies to your life. Think about that and how it applies to your business and your company. Strategic innovation. Walt knew that he was never going to be done. He passed away in 1966, and it was left to the team and the organization and the Imagineers to see his final dream to fruition, and that was Walt Disney World in Florida. They had purchased the land before Walt died, but they didn't break ground until the year after Walt passed away. Walt's greatest legacy was that he left a team and an organization that could keep moving forward even after he was gone. Today, the company is led by Bob Iger, and they still have a team of very imaginative and creative Imagineers who help make all of those different dreams and different visions possible. And the big next for Disneyland is the opening of Star Wars Land, which is scheduled for 2019. So, all right, FYI, the Wisdom of Walt, we do this for nonprofit organizations, available for fundraisers. We do a really creative hour-long presentation with a lot of Disneyland fun facts, Disneyland fun trivia. We also do business workshops. We do have copies of the book available this morning. Cover price is $25. We encourage our Rotarians to buddy up, however, so find a friend this morning, and you can purchase 2 for only $40, which makes it $20 each, and so you each get a $5 savings when you can find a friend, or you can purchase 2 yourself. These make wonderful gifts. You know someone this morning who loves Disneyland and would love a personally signed copy of The Wisdom of Walt. Thank you, Peter.
Jeff, thank you. I'll take 2. Awesome. You're behind me straight on where you are. I late wife's mother would take us down to Disneyland, and she always had a walking stick, and very proud, would never hop in a wheelchair. And then after about 3 hours, a gentleman came up and said, you know, madam, here's a wheelchair, you'll get to the front of the line. We never had a problem getting her a wheelchair after that. Stay right where you are.
Yes.
And we have a book to present to the local library for you in your name.
Thank
And
you
that'll
so
go to
much.
the local library, and we have a little gift for you that is a nice keychain. That if you ever lose your keys, it'll go back to Rotary International Chicago. Thank you, a wonderful speaker.